All right, so you guys sent in this Postally Weekly article, 30 Short Habits, the Top 10%. And I got to say, I'm fascinated by this stuff. Like, who doesn't want to peek behind the curtain and see how the high achievers do it, right? So today, let's unpack these habits together and see what nuggets of wisdom we can pull out.
Yeah, it's definitely tempting to look at those uber successful types and think, if I just copy what they do, I'll get the same results, but it's not always that straightforward.
Right, context is key.
Exactly. It's more about understanding the why behind the what. So let's ditch the life hack mentality and delve into the underlying principles that drive these habits. Who knows, we might even discover some universal truths we can all apply to our own lives, no matter what success looks like for us.
I'm all about uncovering those universal truths. Now, this article jumps right in, saying habits are the foundation of success. It even quotes F.M. Alexander, saying, people do not decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures.
It's like that old saying, penny wise, pound foolish, but reversed, right?
Ooh, I like that analogy.
It's those small, seemingly insignificant actions we take consistently over time that really add up, like compound interest, but for our personal growth.
So we're talking about playing the long game here, not about quick fixes or overnight transformations.
Exactly. This is about those tiny choices we make each day that our future selves will thank us for.
Okay, I'm ready to hear about these habits. Give me a sneak peek.
Yeah.
What are some of the things these top performers are doing differently?
Well, one thing that jumped out at me is how many of these high achievers ditch the alarm clock and wake up naturally. The article even quoted Ariana Huffington on this, saying something about how being jolted awake by sudden fear isn't exactly the most inspiring way to start your day.
I can see that. Waking up to that jarring alarm sound is never a good feeling. But what about those of us who aren't quite ready to ditch the alarm just yet? Are we doomed to a life of sudden fear mornings?
Well, there's this other fascinating idea the article talked about called no decision mornings. It's about minimizing the number of minor choices you make early in the day, which can actually be a game changer in terms of productivity.
The no decision mornings. Tell me more. How does that work?
So, think about it. How often do you find yourself standing in front of your closet, feeling overwhelmed by the simple act of choosing what to wear? Or maybe you spilled precious mental energy every morning debating between cereal or toast.
Oh, tell me about it. That's me every morning.
Those tiny decisions, as insignificant as they seem, all chip away at our willpower throughout the day. Like willpower is a muscle, right? It gets fatigued.
Yeah, it's like decision fatigues is a real thing.
Right. So by reserving your decision-making energy for the important stuff, you're more likely to make choices that align with your goals, you know?
So if we streamline our mornings, we free up mental bandwidth for the bigger things that really matter. I'm starting to see the appeal here.
Exactly. It's about being strategic with your energy.
So we've got waking up naturally, we've got no decision mornings. What other habits are in these top performers' arsenals?
Well, the article really emphasized the importance of defending your time, almost like it's this precious commodity that needs protecting. There's this great quote from author Tom Corley where he says, "If you don't plan your day, someone else will." You know, it really highlights how fiercely these high achievers prioritize their time and focus on what truly matters.
It makes sense when you put it like that. Time is the one resource we can't get more of. But how do they actually defend their time? Do they just say no to everything?
It's a bit more nuanced than that. It's not about becoming a recluse who avoids all social interaction. It's more about being intentional with how you spend your time and energy, like recognizing your peak productivity periods, for example, and scheduling your most important tasks for those times.
That's interesting. So it's not just about what you do, but when you do it.
Absolutely. A lot of these high achievers, they structure their days around their natural energy levels. Like willpower is often highest earlier in the day, right? So that's when they tackle those tasks they might otherwise be tempted to put off.
Okay, so we're starting to see some common threads here. It's not just about mimicking random actions. It's about understanding the underlying strategy. Right?
Exactly. It's about approaching your life and your work with intention and agency.
Intention and agency. I like the sound of that. It's about being the architect of your own life.
Right.
Right. Not just letting things happen, but making conscious choices that align with your values and goals.
Precisely. And, you know, as we delve deeper into this list of 30 habits, you start to see this theme of intentionality woven throughout. Like a lot of these high achievers, they approach their lives almost like they're building a house, you know?
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this house building analogy.
Well, just like with building a house, they have a clear vision, a blueprint, if you will, for what they want to create. And every decision, every action is guided by that vision.
So they're not just setting goals, they're creating a roadmap for how to get there.
Exactly. It's about being deliberate, Not just drifting through life hoping for the best, but making conscious choices that move them closer to where they want to be.
I love that. It's about taking ownership and designing a life that's truly fulfilling. But what about those unexpected things life throws our way? Like,
Right.
how do you plan for the unplanned?
That's a great point. And it's not about being rigid, right? Life is unpredictable, things
Right,
happen.
you can't always stick to the script.
Exactly. It's more about having that clear sense of direction, that North Star that keeps you grounded amidst the chaos. So even when those curveballs inevitably come, you can adjust your sails without losing sight of your ultimate destination.
It's about being adaptable, not rigid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've got intentionality, this idea of having a clear vision and making deliberate choices. What other common threads are we seeing in these habits?
Well, you touched on something earlier about life throwing curveballs.
Hmm.
One of the most prominent themes that emerge from this list is this idea of continuous learning, embracing a growth mindset.
Yeah, I noticed that too. It's not just about, being smart or knowing a lot of stuff. It's about constantly seeking out new knowledge, new skills, new perspectives. Like a lot of the people featured in this article, they're voracious readers.
It's about always being willing to learn and grow, embracing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than setbacks. There's a great quote from Benjamin Franklin in here that really captures this.
Hit me with it. I love a good Benjamin Franklin quote.
So he says, without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. Powerful, right?
Absolutely. It's a good reminder that learning shouldn't stop once we finish school or get that promotion.
Yeah.
It should be an ongoing process, a lifelong pursuit.
Couldn't agree more. It's about cultivating that curiosity, that hunger for knowledge, that drive to always be expanding your horizons. And that ties into another important theme the article highlighted, focus.
Ah, focus. The ever-elusive superpower in today's world of distractions.
Tell me about it. But seriously, these high achievers, they're masters at tuning out the noise and zeroing in on what truly matters.
So they're intentional with their time, their energy, and their attention.
Precisely. And that's not always easy, right? We live in a world that's constantly vying for our attention.
They're real. Between the constant notifications, the endless social media feeds, it's like our brains are being pulled in a million directions at once.
Right. So being able to filter out those distractions and focus on what truly matters, that's a skill that sets these high achievers apart. And, the more we dive into these habits, the more I'm realizing it's not just about the individual actions themselves, it's about cultivating a certain mindset.
It's like this list of 30 habits is actually a sneak peek into the mindset of success.
Now you're getting it. It's about aligning your actions with your values, your goals, your vision for your life. It's about showing up every day as the most intentional, focused, growth-oriented version of yourself.
I love where this conversation is going. But, got to be honest, part of me is also feeling a little overwhelmed right now. Like, it's inspiring to hear about these high achievers and their habits, but where do we even begin? I mean, we can't just overhaul our entire lives overnight.
Right. Yeah, it's like information overload. Right.
It's inspiring, but it's also like, wait, am I supposed to be doing all 30 of these things starting tomorrow?
Right. It's easy to get caught up in that all or nothing mentality, but that's a recipe for burnout.
Burnout or giving up before you even start.
Exactly. And that's where self-awareness comes in. Like the article emphasized this too. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal.
Right. We're not robots. What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. Like take that whole waking up naturally thing, for example. Some people might find it liberating, but for others, it might completely throw off their groove.
I can totally see that. I'm kind of in the needs my alarm camp myself, at least for now.
And that's totally fine. The key is to figure out what works for you, what aligns with your natural rhythms and preferences.
So instead of trying to force ourselves into a mold, we need to find what feels good, what energizes us, what makes us feel like we're firing on all cylinders.
Exactly. It's about tuning into your own internal compass, what energizes you, what drains you, what feels aligned with your values.
So it's about paying attention to those subtle cues throughout the day. Like, am I feeling energized by this task or am I feeling drained?
Exactly. And once you have that clarity, then you can start experimenting with different habits, see what sticks. And remember, small changes can lead to big results over time.
So we don't have to do a complete life overhaul starting tomorrow.
Definitely not. Start with one small thing. Pick one habit from this list that really resonates with you and see how it feels.
It's about building momentum, right? Like Those small wins can lead to bigger and better things over time.
Precisely. It's about consistency over intensity. And, speaking of small changes, you mentioned something earlier that really resonated with me.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
That idea of viewing time as something we invest rather than spend.
Oh, yeah. That really stuck with me, too. It's such a subtle shift in perspective,
Yeah.
but it can be so powerful, right?
Absolutely. It's like instead of thinking, ugh, I have to spend an hour at the gym, you reframe it as, I'm investing an hour in my health, my well-being, my future.
It makes a huge difference. And, the funny thing is, I've actually been trying that out myself. Like, instead of thinking about the time it takes to meditate each morning, I think about it as an investment in my mental clarity and focus for the day.
I love that. You're already putting these principles into action. And, that's what it's all about. It's not about becoming some kind of productivity robot.
Right. It's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. It's about being intentional with your time, your energy, your attention, and designing a life that feels aligned with who you truly are and what you want to achieve in the world.
I love that. So it's not about trying to be someone else or copy someone else's formula for success. It's about figuring out what works for you.
Exactly. It's about embracing your own unique journey and using these habits as tools to help you create the life you want.
I love it. Such a great conversation. Lots for us to think about and, more importantly, to put into action.
It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
Likewise. And listeners, we want to hear from you. What resonated with you most from today's conversation? What one habit are you going to experiment with this week? Head over to our social media channels and share your thoughts. Until next time, keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep diving deep into those things that light you up.